Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secure Talk. Secure Talk is brought to you by Adequest, your cybersecurity and compliance partner. My name is Mark Schreiner, and I'll be your host for this episode of Secure Talk. Today, we're going to be talking to Santosh Devaraj. Am I pronouncing your name correct?
Yeah.
Probably not, but that's beginner's luck there. And your colleague Paul. Paul, I'm not even going to try your name. How do I say your last name, Paul?
Kwiatek.
Thank you. Okay. And Santosh is the CEO, and Paul, what do you do with?
I work for marketing at TrustGrid.
Excellent. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of conversation. Santosh, I mean, you have a lot of experience in the security space. Formerly, you were CEO of Secure Logic, I believe.
That's
excuse me. No, you're CEO of another. See, wait a minute. I'm reading this wrong. We're getting off to a bad start here. You were CEO of another company. I know that. Which company was that?
No, that's actually Secure Logic. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's try this again. We're going to be talking about TrustGrid, which, if I understand correctly, and Paul, I'm sure you're going to have a better way to say this, is a confidential computing platform that helps to conduct identity transactions. Or allows you to design and execute identity transactions with a guaranteed privacy and different confidentiality levels. And that's kind of coming from your website, but I think what we'll do as we get into this, you'll probably be able to articulate that a little bit better. But before we get into that, first off, how are you guys doing? Are you guys in Sydney?
Yeah, we're in Sydney. Sunshine today, hopefully. So yesterday it was, and a bit cloudy, but it's definitely life's good in Sydney compared to a lot of the rest of the part of the world at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of shocked or kind of surprised because you're the first people that I've spoken to in a long time that are actually in the office. And, I do most of my work in North America and Europe, and I don't see anybody except the little virtual offices like what I got going on here, right? So is everybody back business as usual, or what's the situation there right now?
In Sydney, we've got like a lot of states in Australia, New South Wales, where Sydney's the capital or part of. We never had a lockdown. We only had a lockdown during the early stage of the coronavirus issue last year, around March and April. After that, there was no such thing as a lockdown, so people were able to go to work. But, from a precautionary measure point of view, we try to eliminate everyone coming into work. So we had a few days, from a rostering or shift point of view, people were taking turns of coming to office. But we're almost back to normal throughout the year this year. There was no problems.
That's inspiring or motivating for us. I mean, the States we're on that path, but still people are being pretty cautious and whenever possible work from home. And what's the situation with the vaccine in Australia right now?
I think when I was on the TV ad, so basically we're almost on the 5th or 6th of the world's vaccination rollout. So we're doing okay. I think we're almost done about 14% of the population. I think US is traveling really well. I think you guys have done about 11%, as I understand. And there are other countries doing well as well. So yeah, we're on the right track. I think we're also forecasting everyone to be vaccinated, the majority of them to be vaccinated by end of December.
That's again, it's inspiring. So has this affected your business or interest levels from your customers in terms of one is there's the whole work from home thing, which has exposed a lot of different security weaknesses, potential issues. And then there's the vaccine process itself and vaccine passports and things like that. Has this impacted your business at all?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It has massively impacted almost every business in its own way. right? So from our business point of view, I can actually, if you look at two faces of the coin, one side is your, manage security, right? So how do
Right.
you manage your, employee working from home, or how do you become that mobile organization to support, your client needs or government needs or your own enterprise needs? So from that point of view, there's a lot of security controls that weren't in place for a lot of organizations. They had to quickly think about how are they going to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there, working with all the client base and trying to help them come up with those solutions, and because it becomes a borderless kind of method of working, you're not in a premise where it's all secured and so forth. So, there's a lot of demand, a surge in requests to do quick assessments and all provide with the solutions that could help them operate and also be able to be efficient without having to take a lot of those security risks or expose themselves to the different threat vectors, right? So there was a lot of demand from cybersecurity just as a service request, all right? So
Sure.
for any cybersecurity organization, they would have got a lot of requests to assist their client base or government or anyone in the change of the work ethics or work culture, work environment, and to expand on that borderless network or system model, right? So that's one way to look at it. From a TrustGrid point of view, the entire digital transition or digitalization. So everybody's talking about digitalization for a while. Nobody kind of understood what it was, except for trying to go online and have an app on a phone. Everybody thought just having going online, just having a system centralized database or something is digitalization, or coming up with an app is a digitalization. Right. But what this COVID thing did was basically looked at from a transaction point of view. It's actually not just accessing an information through an app or through a web browser. It's actually looking at how do we all interact with each other, collaborate with each other, and to be able to seamlessly communicate, but also wait for that process or be part of the process while we're ensuring that our privacy is all preserved, right?
Right.
So I think that then kind of it's a global demand around that transition into the digital world. Nobody started thinking about, well, what is that security? What is the privacy preservation? What does that actually mean? They just wanted to go with a quick system that would help people check in, or they would help people access something without having to touch each other or touch a common element. Not having to take a credit card. So how do you then transact? Is there mobile transactions or mobile payment transactions? Also, e-commerce based systems that you could use to be able to not use a plastic card or so forth, right? So everybody started looking at ideas and coming up with solutions that would help them quickly transition from any of these physical media to be able to not use the physical media, right? Online shoppings and so forth also massively skyrocketed.
And these what, again, when I mentioned the description of TrustGrid earlier, I used the phrase identity transaction. Is that what you're referring to here? Is identity-based transactions?
Yeah, that's right. So basically, in a non-technical way, if I have to put what TrustGrid is, it's a digital ecosystem where regulators, governments, enterprise, SMBs, small, medium businesses, their customers and citizens, everyone can collaborate, share data, and also involved in a transactional element of processing data, store data, access data securely and with privacy preserved identity-based transactional model in real time. What that means is I am, so if I'm a citizen of a particular place or a state or a country, I'm also might be a business owner. I'm also, or I might be working for a business. I'm an employee of an organization. So who am I? In reality, in physical world, I am Santosh. I should have only one identity. It's me. Doesn't really matter what persona I have. whether I am a citizen of a place or I'm working for an organization, I'm still one person, right? So traditionally, if you look at it, based on your role, everybody was making an identity for you.
Right.
So they're creating an identity on behalf of you. So that's where the majority of, if you look at the cyber threat or cyber vectors, threat vectors today, 70% of the compromises are because of identity compromises or eventuating from their identity compromise. That's because we left everybody create their identity the way they wanted to. The government creates an identity, an organization you work for creates another one, and that gets compromised. So somebody has got hold of your information, which is your PI, private personal information or private information, which is then leveraged to compromise either from a money or from a fraudulent transactional value or motive or means. So I think for us, we're going back to fundamentals of who we are. Why does anyone have to create an identity? Why can't I be involved in a virtual world to be able to wait for something that I'm requesting for, or to be able to request that and hold that identity? And the government will provide that vetting process, or will also be part of that transactional element where they will provide certain credentials to do certain things, right?
Sure.
So, for example, if you want to drive a car, yes, the government will be able to provide the driving credentials, right?
Sure.
So, but they don't have to create an identity to do that, right? So if I go to the pub, the business is able to verify that I'm over 18, but they don't have to create another, photo card ID or keep
Sure.
a copy of it. So if you look at from that ecosystem modeling point of view, how does that actually work? So in a real-time system, where I am a person going to venue or opening a bank account without having to go on a venue, we can make all of that happen without having to provide them with the copies of our identity information. So basically, it's a system where everybody will be interacting together and also sharing the data or providing an element to vet for the data that somebody holds as a custodian or I hold as the owner of the data.
So can you give me a very specific example of how you've helped one of your customers use TrustGrid to solve a problem?
So we'll take an example of the government body here in New South Wales as a state government, right?
Okay.
So we worked with them about 5 years ago when they said we want to go digital. So
Okay.
like, right, fantastic. What does that actually mean? So basically, they said we just want to come with an app. We don't want plastic cards for driver's licenses. So well, that's a great idea. And fast forward 5 years ago when they had an idea, we actually said, like, probably we should think a bit more than just converting the plastic card onto an app. So that's what the TrustGrid, that's when we started TrustGrid, right? Fast forward, I'll give you an example how it exactly works today, right? So we had a plastic card. So government organization is complex in any part of the world, because
Sure.
there are different agencies doing different things, and there are different they're part of the different ministerial offices, right? So they've got different budget. It's very hard to make sure everybody works together. It's a little bit of challenge there, right? So
Sure.
basically what happened was we went and we worked with the government like last few years. And then we created something called, we have a body called Service New South Wales. What they're tasked to look at all the digital strategy for the state. So basically, if you look at licenses, amount of licenses, number of license types we've got 143 different license types in this state, right? So, for example, driver's license is one. Firearm license, responsible serve of alcohol, fishing license, boat license, you name it. So there's a license for trade license,
Sure.
medical practitioner license. So like that, there's tons of license. But also the thing is, all of these license types are not actually issued by one agency. They are part of different agencies. We've got about 120 different agencies in the state. So what we said was, look, traditionally, everybody, you would apply, you would fill an application with your details of citizenship certificate or something, or use a driver's license as a primary license to apply for different licenses. So we said, look, first thing we're going to do is to work and create something called a common element of what do we need for somebody to apply for a license, right? So you need your date of birth, basically your birth elements, right? Date of birth, name, address, and XYZ. So 4 attributes. So we worked with them and said, we came up with a simple model there and said, like, let's go with one license type, whatever it is, digital driver's license or any license type. So you already have your card, or if you're applying for a new one, you can apply through your digital form. So we said, like, here's a TrustGrid app. You go and enroll there and apply. Or if you already have a plastic, simple enrollment, right? Use the plastic, go on to a TrustGrid app and convert that into. So what we did was we also gave them an integration backend to be able to simplify their onboarding process, right? So what we did with the TrustGrid is we took away the one time only we do a proof of enrollment, and after that, that's gone. And then what happens is, as an individual, when I enroll, I actually hold my identity now. There is no identity anymore because we use a blockchain. We've got an advanced blockchain-based architecture, which we have actually patented for. It's a TrustGrid patented ledger-based system. That's what makes it a privacy-preserved transaction. That means I hold my identity now. As soon as I enroll, I create my identity and hold it on my digital phone. It could be phone or any devices you might use. The government then will say, well, okay, so we're going to roll out use cases, right? So it's proof of age, for example. So it's easy for them to roll out proof of age. I, as a citizen, can go and say, well, I want to enroll for the proof of age. Just click on that particular. It comes as a subscription on your app.
Basically, is it just, I mean, you created your identity, and then you can use that, you can leverage that identity to apply for other certificates, licenses, et cetera. It's going to pull the information from your original identity, which you hold, though.
That's correct. That's
okay.
correct. When
now
you go to the pub.
Yeah, you go to the pub.
When you go to the pub, so there is a secure QR. So you click on age proof. For example, there's another widget in the same app, age proof, and then it opens up a secure QR which cannot be compromised. And that's it's like a proof of, if you look at it in blockchain, proof of request, we say, right? So the proof of request is only valid for that particular person, for that event, for that particular venue. You open that up, a bouncer is outside, he'll take a photo of that, and then you get to see your photo, and also the government vetting that sends a message saying, this person is over the legal age of New South Wales government. Or that means he doesn't have your date of birth, he doesn't have your address where you live and all of that.
He's just validated, you know what, the government says he's good to go, right? In this situation, and you answered my question because obviously there's a picture there, because if it was just a thumbs up without a picture, you could borrow somebody else's phone or something like that, right? What happens in the case? I mean, I like it. I mean, the fact that, I mean, already right now, so many things can be done with our phones, and paying for things and so on and so forth. And I hate filling out forms. God, I hate filling forms. But it's not just the time and effort filling out forms. It's the how many people is this information gonna pass through before they get it into their system? I mean, I can't. What I did recently, I filled out. It was like 3 or 4 pages of it's kind of repetitive information. Scan it, send it in, and then it goes to a processing center. Somebody's entering it. There's so many opportunities there for it to be abused, right? So I'm totally with you. What happens though if you lose your phone?
Yeah. So when you lose your phone, when you get a new phone or reformat your phone, could be anything, right? So you go through a simple enrollment process to download the app, simple registration back on the app. And then you create a new identity because you are the one, because you are the identity. So what we're not trying to do is create an identity. So you are the identity. As long as you're alive, you can create another identity that actually is within your handheld devices. right? So that is your temporary identity, but you are the identity. Because what that really means is you are using your biometrics to be able to create that, which will be used for your transactions.
Gotcha.
So if you lose your phone, nobody can use that without without you being present.
And which biometrics do you use?
So we actually, what we do is we tap into the chipset of any phone. For example, if you look at Apple phone, Apple, you know how they do the Face ID.
Yeah,
they use the SXG chipset of the crypto module, and that's where they does all the crypto functions and so forth. We use the same technique as Apple or Microsoft in their CX framework of their cloud framework to execute some of those transactions as well. That's why it's called a confidential compute.
Are you guys wearing masks down there? It doesn't look. I mean, out on the street, no, because
we're not had to.
Yeah. So I mean, we're still, depending on what state and city you're in, people still are encouraged to wear masks in in public places. But it's kind of funny because you have to do one of these. Hey, it's really me, and then put the mask back on to get the face recognition to work. You guys are not dealing with that down there. Tell me about your customers. Where are they located? Is it just Australia? Are you doing where are you doing business?
So we've got customers in Australia, as well as in Greece, soon to be in Mexico, in India. So currently we have that region, but we're now covering, soon to be covered, Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea. US, we're working with, a lot of these customers are also global, but they are trialing in different regions. Sure. For example, one of the biggest pharmaceutical or medical, I think they manufacture medical equipment, and so we're working with them to onboard them to do all the COVID vaccination or passports, and they do all the testing centers as well to onboard them. So, they're based out of states, but they want to trial in Australia first.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the vaccination passport. I mean, I assume it's basically similar to the scenario that you just talked about, but if I've been vaccinated, how does my identity, I guess I would have to, explain to me, how does my identity know that I've been vaccinated, and then the application of that?
Yeah. So I'll probably break that out into two different examples. One is what is already in play in New South Wales, which is a very simple application. So, if you want to visit any pubs or any venues, right, public venues, we're supposed to check in so they can do a tracing, COVID trace, if there is an adverse of the virus. So basically what it used to be back then is you go in, you take a QR, every venue has a QR. So you take a photo of the QR, and there was all of this question that comes up in a web form, put in your mobile number, put in your email address, put in your, all of that stuff. I think people started misusing that information because they started using that for promotional purpose of the venues and so forth. So we said
it's those marketing guys. Yeah.
Exactly. So we said business shouldn't be allowed to be doing all of that because you are mandated to use that system because of government mandates, but they're using for the benefits of the business, right?
Well,
so we went to the.
I've even seen where here in the States where you have to sign in your name, your phone number, and sometimes it's email address so they can. But you're filling it out, and then anybody could just take a picture of like the page of all those customer contact details, and I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable doing that, So I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that's another way it could be abused.
Absolutely. So what we did was, we've already rolled out our digital driver's license on a lot of other type of license on our TrustGrid application or platform. So we said it's very simple for government to be able to use TrustGrid to do that. They said how? We said pretty much use the TrustGrid app, take the QR photo, and then basically the identity is already with me. We will just automatically on the ledger we will send the, without having to send the identity, we'll send an audit trail of a thumbprint of that, like a token to
Right.
say he's checked in. Then the information is not stored with the, definitely not with the venue,
Right.
and also not with the government. The government
Right.
only has at this stage an audit trail of
Right.
my thumbprint. So if there is an outburst, or if there is an outbreak of the virus, then they can basically use that token to correlate back to the original source, which is me.
Right.
So until then, they don't have to tap into the source information of who I am, right? So that's how simple it was. And then when they rolled this out about almost 8 months ago, or 6 to 8 months ago, I mean, 98%, they did a bit of a survey in the state, 98% satisfaction. Everybody loved it.
That's
and
great.
now we've got other state governments calling us saying, well, can you give us the same system?
Right.
which is easy for us to kind of roll that out because the way they've designed the TrustGrid. So that's one part of the example of how it works without having to share that information but we're actually now it's real-time communication as well without having to give away our private information, right?
Sure.
So if you look at vaccination passport, it's the same thing. What we do is, so I already have my identity
Right.
through a TrustGrid. So I go to a venue. Each venue will be also onboarded onto TrustGrid platform, and the administrators are also onboarded onto a TrustGrid platform, right? Because they all have their own identity. As a venue, they have an identity. As an individual, they have an identity as a clinic nurse or whatever. So basically, when I turn up, you can start as far back as manufacturer can also provide a kind of authenticity for the vaccine itself, or to make it simple, say the vaccine's already in the clinic. So we'll start from there. They could just scan the QR code of the vaccine and onboard that particular vaccine onto the system as well. So we've got the asset, which is a vaccine at this stage, on the system. We got administrator on the system, clinic on the system, and as an individual consuming the vaccine, I'm on the system, right? I turn up to a clinic, and then they will scan that vaccine and then allocate that to an administrator, right? Because he will say, well, who is actually administering the vaccine? And then you can choose, you could say, well, this is the venue, and I will consent to it as an administrator in real time. So I get a notification to consent. I say, yeah, I'm administrating this. And also the person who's turned up to the clinic, you can take the QR code because he will have vaccination request. When he clicks on that, it'll come up as a secure QR. When I'm administering the vaccine, I take that photo, and then I, as a person, will say, well, do you want to consent to consume this vaccine? So I can consent to that as well. That means nobody's forcing me to take the vaccine, because nobody, currently is a lot of places that people are paying for people to consume vaccine, right?
Sure.
Legally, I don't know where it ends up, but at least now I've said, look, I am consuming the vaccine, and then I do that. And then when I inject the vaccine, I will complete the process by saying I completed the administration of the vaccine. When that happens, virtually, it almost that vaccine identity is transferred over to you onto your virtual world, onto your digital wallet, for example. That means you are the owner, or it's in your DNA, right? So there will be a new QR formed dynamically that then the vaccine is destroyed almost, right? So it's passed on to you. And then what you can do is you can share that information. You can put it on your Facebook, or you can apply that into your employment contracts if you want, or you can also publicly make that available for either applying for your work permit, or applying for your travel permit or anything, because anybody takes a capture of the QR code. Basically, I get the request to consent to be able to share any part of that vaccine or all part of the vaccine history to these organizations or individuals that are requesting to vet or request for that particular, for any of those processes. So that means I'm involved in authorizing any of that information flow to be able to do that, right? So which makes it easier.
What happens in the case? Okay, so I can use that vaccine passport if an organization is on the TrustGrid platform. Is there any way, and if I get the terminology incorrect here, please correct me. I know that with blockchain, it's supposed to be an open ledger, but you also have, with TrustGrid, is this a proprietary blockchain, correct?
Yeah.
Or okay. So is there a way to open up that so that if another state is using another system, you don't want to have a different identity for every state, or maybe you do. Maybe you tell me that, but it'd be nice, I think, that if I could say, hey, I created this identity with in New South Wales. Now I'm going someplace else, and I just want to show that I have been vaccinated. How does that work?
That's a really good point. That's a really good question, because 5 years ago when we started working on this blockchain-based system, when we spoke to Korean government, South Korean government, as well as Singapore, one of the things they said was, we want to be able to have our citizens go to your country, be able to drive
Right.
with the digital license they would have, right? Absolutely. So we looked at, even they use TrustGrid or not use TrustGrid, can we actually make sure that ledger format is an open ledger format?
Right.
Yes, that is possible. So we can integrate now with IBM Ledger or Oracle Ledger, any ledger, as a matter of fact, right? So that's one. It's from a technical answer point of view. From non-technical point of view, the way it works is, if I am a different state, I'm using a different. I don't have to have an app, TrustGrid app,
Right.
Because not everybody would have a TrustGrid app day one, right? So how can I then validate my QR? So you could, if you take a photo capture of the QR, it will just open up a web GUI, and it will do the same thing where an app would simulate. So without having an app, you could still validate.
That's great. That's great. And I think the driver's license scenario is it's just an excellent opportunity and idea, because when you're traveling between different countries, can I use my license? Do I need an international license? And and then you also don't have to worry about losing it and register and all that stuff. That's a great application. Well, hey, what Paul, you've been really quiet. What challenges do you have marketing something like TrustGrid, specifically, I guess, especially in the time with COVID, where you can't really travel that much outside of Australia anyway. There's no big industry events to go to. What are the challenges, and how are you overcoming them?
Well, first of all, when we started with TrustGrid, we did some competitors research, and that was a tricky exercise, because back then there wasn't any product or service on the market that is alike to ours, right? So from the marketing perspective, the biggest challenge is that you have kind of educate the market, you have to build all the use cases, and you just have to find the appropriate stakeholders that might be interested in this solution. And obviously for us, like the most important target right now are the governments, because they are like issuing all the documents. But also we want to extend those cases also for business. And again, no one else did it earlier. So it's kind of reinventing like the entire new system, reinventing like the entire new reality for us. So it's challenging, but it's also like great opportunity to find new ways to attract people and educate the market about it. So we are still working on it, but it's an exciting journey from the marketing perspective.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to, if your product is super new and innovative, to because people don't know what to compare it to or can't understand the applications. But you've done a really good job today, both of you, of giving some very concrete examples. I'm just curious, like, because when you reach out to governments or large organizations, are you reaching out to the identity team, or what kind of people, I mean, or is this more on the business side? I could see applications in HR, for example. Is it across the board, or I mean, organizationally dependent, or what kind of people seem to be your primary contacts?
So that's, I mean, being a small team, if I have, if I had a massive workforce around the world, like you said, we would have targeted all kind of service sectors, right? So, but now what we're trying to do is focus on citizen services, accreditation services, and also health services. There are 3 service categories we're focusing on, and within those 3 categories, it's a massive use case there as well. If you look at health services, we can go all the way from health records from the birth to vaccinations to all of that, right? So we're just focusing at this stage on creating the health records or from a vaccination point of view, right?
Sure.
Digital accreditation is a really good. So we're talking to the ministerial offices to. Well, actually, we go and present to the ministers, education ministers, or also National Education Board. We present to them. So they are a target audience at this stage. The minister's office, chief of staffs there, who understands what it actually means for them from today to 5 years journey, a 10 years journey. How do they then get rid of, we talk about HSC credentials, like university credentials. How do they can get rid of these diploma certificates or HSC certificates?
Yeah, it's funny because my one of my neighbors here is they're traveling, and they just texted me today and they said, can you go into my house? We take care of their cat when they're traveling. Can you go into my house and look in this drawer? You'll find my college degree. I need a picture of it. Because and they're on vacation, but they needed this to validate or qualify for something that I don't want to go into. But it was just so funny that you bring up that, because I'm thinking, like, why? I mean, an intermediary step is like you digitize everything anyway, but then again, if where are the files and so on and so forth. So I mean, that use case, I think it was in the back of my mind as you were talking earlier. It would have solved their problem, and yeah. So sorry to cut you off there.
So we're talking to them because they want an education passport, which helps them create the digital blueprint for an individual start from the birth. Sure. I go to school, I got my accreditations, whatever, and then I go to university, get my accreditations there. And then if I want to share that accreditation, it's with me. If I want to apply, I can, in a virtual world, I can have a static QR for that, and I can advertise that on Facebook anyway. But nobody can access that without my consent. Right. And I can control what part of that the credentials I want to share with who, for a university or for employment purpose or for travel purpose or for purpose of permanent residency with the government, all of that, right? So all of these universities or education board, everybody's involved in also vetting process in real time. So we actually showed them complete end-to-end how it works. So I think they're kind of blown away by seeing like how it works in real world.
Do you guys do do paper transcripts in Australia? So like yeah. So here, if you're applying for graduate school or anything like that, most schools require that you send them not a PDF, not it's got to be certified transcripts. So it's sent out by, and if you think about the waste involved with that, right? I mean, it's but if you had a digitized record of your educational achievements, including your transcripts, that's a huge opportunity as well. Looks like you got the window cleaners there.
Yeah, that's fine.
What floor are you guys on?
23rd.
23rd. I would not want that job. Yeah. So, hey, you guys are doing some really cool stuff. And if people want to learn more about TrustGrid, they can go to your website. I'll put that into the description. Any other suggestions or anything else you'd like to share with us?
Our website, we're trying to equip the website with as much as information, because the fact that it's the one common place everybody will go soon after this. But look, we are also there's also phone lines, chat bots, and we got on 24/7 staffs as well available for a chat or phone call. So yeah, like definitely, I think for us, like Paul was saying, the challenge is educational bit. For us, all we're doing is educating the market because there's a lot of question asked saying, how secure is this? Where is the data stored? What is everybody's role in this? And as a platform service provider, we don't keep any of those data.
Right.
I mean, that was first question asked by all the other governments when we went around the world, and that's what led us to develop TrustGrid platform what it is today, which runs completely on cloud-based a platform, and the ledger sits in different regions. If you're in US West or East, you can choose US East or West and have everything run locally, and we would not have access to any of that. So we kind of made it that way where, from a data confidentiality, data secrecy, privacy, from all the way from people taking part in the consortium and in the whole community versus the whole platform itself, how the platform runs. So we don't have access to any of that. So yeah, I think that, there is that way that it takes a lot of time for us to educate a particular client that wants to come on board. So
sure. Yeah. Well, so I mean, just so I understand, and we'll kind of wrap this up here pretty quickly, but in the case of my personal identity, I create it. Okay, in the example you started off with was with the government of New South Wales, but I create my identity through their system, right? They're using TrustGrid and so I can go there and create my identity. And then, but the identity you're saying still resides on, the information is going to be on my device.
Yeah.
Right.
So there are a few elements here. One is, as a user you are the user to the government, right?
Right.
You're the citizen to the government. Government will create a consortium on what we call as a TrustGrid consortium platform or TrustGrid SaaS platform. That SaaS platform itself, when the government creates their own consortium to be able to invite other agencies, even we don't get to see that. They can choose that to be run in their own country, their own state, based on either AWS or Azure. They can choose, and when they create that, they create their own keys and in the confidential compute. Even TrustGrid, as a TrustGrid, they use the TrustGrid kind of portal, but we don't have access to any of that, what they do.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that then gives them assurance around whatever they're doing as a use case from a transactional point of view has got nothing to do with TrustGrid team involved, right? And then they're going to send these use cases to the businesses that are part of the community and to citizens. Then the businesses and citizens also create their own things, which they hold, which even government can't see.
Right.
So everybody now becomes part of that. I'm either the data owner or custodian of certain data, or just vetting or credential vetting agencies for certain things. So that's the beauty of the TrustGrid ecosystem. So you all get to play a role without having to give somebody our data and think that they're going to safeguard my data now, because I'll keep my own data.
Sounds awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys taking time to come on Secure Talk. You've kind of opened up a new, I guess, light on identity and identity transactions and how you can do it using blockchain and obviously, with TrustGrid. I'm just curious, what advice, aside from going to your website, but if there are people who they want to get more information on this kind of topic. It doesn't have to be TrustGrid specific, but similar platforms, etc. If they want to learn more about what's going on with these secure identity transactions and the different platforms, what would you advise them? Do you go to any publications, events? What would you look at?
Yeah, look, if they don't have to, if they just register on our website, so they get that access to a lot more in-depth material, such as the white papers on how does the cryptography work from all of these transactional elements around, from the mobile phone to the SaaS portal, what is the confidential compute. So a lot of those materials are on our wiki, TrustGrid wiki, which is for registered users. So they can also go online, register, and get access to some of those materials as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, gentlemen, it's been great talking with you, and I wish you a great rest of your day there.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.